This video covers the creating and deleting of logical volumes. Now in the previous lesson, I created a volume group. So if I run sudo vgs, that volume group is called mydata-vg with one physical volume in there. Currently I have 0 logical volumes. Also, if I run sudo lvdisplay-v, I see that I have the volume group. There are currently no logical volumes, and I still have my physical volume here that I had from the last lesson. It's using 255 physical extents, and we're going to see that number come back up again after we create our logical volume. Creating a logical volume is easy with lvcreate dash, and I'm going to use the capital L the very first time, which is if I plan on hard coding in a specific gigabyte or megabyte size or a terabyte size, I'm going to use 512 megabytes. So I'll use the dash capital L option for that. That's roughly half of my 1 gigabyte hard drive that we created for this virtual machine. The dash N option is used to name the logical volume. So I'll give it volume 1-lv. And I need to also associate it with a volume group. So the last part of this is mydata-vg, which is the volume group that I currently have created. If I hit enter, I now have a logical volume. If I run sudo vgs, I see one logical volume. If I run sudo lvdisplay-v, I also have details of my logical volume right here. My logical volume size is 512 megabytes. It's using 128 of those extents that I referred to just a moment ago. I have a file path here, which will be used in the next video to actually mount it to my file system and put a file system on it as well. See the volume group it belongs to. Coming down a little bit further, this is the physical drive we have in our group, and if I look, I now have, out of my 255 available physical extents, 127 free. So it used 128 of those. There are a couple additional commands I now can use. Sudo lvs, which shows me a summary of my logical volume. I can also use sudo lvdisplay. When I run that command, I like using the dash M option as that shows me the mapping to the physical hard drive. I'll run that. Here's more details on my logical volume. And here is that mapping that I just referred to. So it's mapped to or currently associated with dev SDB. That's my hard drive. And it's using extent 0 to 127. So that totals my 128 extents. I'll use the command again to create it, lvcreate. Let's go ahead and create our second logical volume. Dash. This time around, I'll do dash little l, which allows me to use it based on a percentage. If I put 50% free, this is going to use 50% of however many physical extents are free. I have 127 of them free, so it's going to use roughly then 63 or 64 extents. I'll go ahead and call it volume 2-lv, and we'll put it in the mydata volume group. Now my second logical volume is created. Let's see some details. Sudo vgs. That shows me I have 2 logical volumes. Sudo vgdisplay-v shows me details of our first logical volume as well as our second logical volume here. And there it is, 63 physical extents were used. And I can see I have 64 currently free. Now let's run sudo lvs. I see both logical volumes here, and sudo lvdisplay-m. This now shows me, here's our first logical volume, which we saw earlier. Here's now my second logical volume. And if I look closely at this one, I see that I'm using physical extent 128 to 190. So we left off here at 127 of my drive. And if you remember, those extents were 4 megabyte chunks of my disk broken up. So it's using 128 to 190. And I had a total of 255 of these. So I have a few free, 63 I believe free. Let's go ahead and create one more, lvcreate-l. This time I'm going to use 100% of what's free. -n, I'll call it volume 3 lv, and we're going to put this in mydata-vg. Alright, volume 3 has now been created. Sudo vg, let's just go to lvdisplay -m. And going through this, here's my first logical volume, my second logical volume, and now my third logical volume, volume 3-lv. It uses a total of 64. And coming down here, physical extents 254. I said 255, I believe, earlier. It's one less because we started counting at 0. So 255 in total. And it uses all the way to the end of my drive now for my physical extents, which fills up, if I run lsblk, it fills up all of my drive B. And I can see now those are the 3 physical volumes, or sorry, logical volumes that make up this physical volume. If we need to delete them, they're not hard to delete. To delete it, it's sudo lvremove. The syntax is slightly different. In this case, I need to first identify the volume group, which is mydata-vg, the /, and then the volume that I want to delete, which is volume 3-lv. If I hit enter, it asks me if I really want to delete this or discard it because it is an active logical volume that's being used by the volume group. I'll choose yes or Y and hit enter. Now that logical volume has been removed. Running sudo lvdisplay-m will show me only volume 1 and volume 2. So volume 3 is no longer there. If I run sudo, let's just do vgs, I see now that I still am only using 2 logical volumes, and that third one has been removed. In the next lesson, we're going to take a look at formatting these logical volumes and actually mounting them to our operating system.